Hey guys, I'm Yuruzi. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Was in Kingdom Hearts. So my name is Uzumaki Naruto. My dream is to be Hokage, but I'm not there yet. But with a demon in my navel I have work to do. Not only that, but now I got this giant key and this destiny. Perfect. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 7, Sun with Shadows. Again, thanks a lot for your help, Kurenai-san. Ever since I broke my foot I've been behind on my work, the tall, dark-skinned man said gratefully, leaning on a crutch outside his small home. Kurenai smiled back, as her genin stood behind her holding several boxes. It's not a problem, Makihara. How long until you're back on the job? The man grimaced. A week at least. Guess I should be more careful while training. Kiba groaned under the weight. The hell is in these things anyway? Makihara shrugged. Some kind wheels for these new kinds of wagon up north. Supposed to run on their own, the dark-skinned ninja continued, ending the sentence with an incredulous snort. Hinata fidgeted a little under the weight of her box. Oh no. Makihara-san. If you're a ninja, why are you taking on other J-jobs? The man smiled as a petite, pale, black-haired girl stood in the doorway next to him. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders as she blushed, a hand over her protruding belly. Until I get a promotion, I need as much income as I can get with Chiaki-chan here expecting. His wife smiled. Thank you ever so much. Kurenai nodded and turned to head down the street. Her genins obediently followed, Akamaru trotting along his master. Kiba groaned again. Great. Are we even getting paid for this mission? Shino raised an eyebrow, displaying no difficulty with his boxes. We were appointed this mission per the standard procedure. I imagine we will be paid. Yeah, Kiba began, but you heard him. He needs all the income he can get. Kurenai smiled. Well, as this is a low-rated D-rank mission, the money made by getting his orders in more than covers what he'll pay us. Besides, as he is a friend, I've decided to decline my own pay from this mission. Hinata stumbled a bit, her teammates turning back as one. Hinata, you okay? Kiba asked. Hinata nodded and smiled weakly. I'm fine. Don't worry about me, the pale-eyed girl responded. Kiba furrowed his brow, but resumed walking with everyone else, passing through the streets of one of Konoha's middle-class districts. Merchants noisily advertised their wares, as civilians and shinobi milled about. Street performers danced and entertained for coins, while a few old men sat in the shade, playing shogi. Gangwei! And a familiar orange-clad blonde barreled right into Hinata, sending both genin to the ground in a heap. Ow, my head. Ha! Hinata-chan. I'm sorry. You okay? Hinata gazed up into the wide, concerned eyes of her crush, and felt her face burn in a blush. She began to have trouble breathing as she became aware of their, somewhat scandalous, position. Naruto-kun is on top of me. Naruto-kun is on top of me. Naruto-kun is on top of me dash. Hey! Get the hell off her, dead last. Naruto was roughly yanked away from Hinata. Inside, the girl felt both relief and anger at this turn of events. She soundlessly accepted Shino's hand up as Kiba and Naruto began to argue. Watch where you're going next time, moron. Naruto growled back at the dog-like Nin, as Akamaru barked angrily at the blonde alongside Kiba. Don't call me a moron, dog breath. It's okay, Kiba, I'm fine, Hinata said quietly. Kiba would have continued his yelling, if not for his sensei clearing her throat loudly. Hinata is fine, Kiba. No harm done. The red-eyed jounin turned to the glowering Naruto. And you, Naruto, should be far more careful. The blonde sighed. Right, sorry, Kurenai-sensei. But I've got to deliver these letters and fast. Naruto indicated the pack he was carrying. Kurenai nodded. Well then, off with you. Naruto nodded and smiled at Hinata. Sorry about that again. See you later, Hinata-chan. With that, Naruto headed off, ignoring the glares and glowers being sent his way by the people on the street. Hinata blushed and twiddled her fingers a bit. All right. Let's get going again, Kurenai interjected. Hinata started and nodded, picking up her box and resuming her trek. Kiba walked alongside her, looking concerned. Hey, sure you're okay, Hinata-chan? Hinata nodded and smiled. It was noticeably brighter than her previous ones. I am fine. Really? Shino raised a single eyebrow at this. Kiba noticed and shrugged, his expression one of exasperation. Kurenai smiled slightly as they continued their trek. She was just bowled over by Naruto, and she's happier for it. This could prove interesting. Kurenai smirked evilly, not to mention that it would make her bastard father blow a gasket. Naruto sighed and looked at the last letter in his pack. The woman who had requested the mission had needed extra help delivering mail across town. The blonde had been a bit surprised at her kind manner towards him. It turned out she'd only recently moved to Konoha, and so didn't know about him. Yet, he thought, a bit glumly. This wouldn't be the first time he'd met someone new to the area, got along with fine, and then found those people turned against him by the other villagers. Naruto looked up at the wooded path leading up a ridge. It was in one of the more forested areas of Konoha, and near one of the larger training fields. Naruto checked the address on the letter. Why does she want to mail out all these contest offers anyway? She's not rich, the blonde ninja mused as he hiked the path up slowly. He came to an open space in the wood, the forest canopy stretching out over the area and casting the place into dappled shadows. Naruto grimaced, suddenly feeling a mild chill in the air. He felt a mental nudge, usually only felt when the keyblade was out, and then he saw movement. A patch of shadow moved between the spots of sunlight. Another and another and another. Familiar monsters rising from darkness. Crap, Naruto muttered, stuffing the last letter back into his pack before summoning the keyblade. He took a good, 360-degree angle survey of the area. They were all around him, twitching, jerking, hungry yellow eyes glowing in the shade. The silence was as unnerving as their appearance, because they reminded Naruto of fire ants. Fire ants that had once been set into his apartment by a disgruntled villager. Even now he could remember the hordes of insects scurrying, crawling, seeking him out. But that was then, and this. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A dozen Narutos appeared among the dark creatures and as one, slashed through the little beasts. Several hopped high above the strikes, only to be caught as Naruto as his clones leapt into the air, striking them down. Naruto was glad to see that his copy's keyblades worked just as well as the original against these things. Naruto landed from his jump, spinning around and taking 3 of the creatures out at once. He cursed as one of his clones went down to some of the monsters, poofing out of existence. The dark creatures sat still for a moment, as though confused, which allowed 2 other clones to cut them down. Naruto tumbled backwards to avoid another creature's pounce, and thrust his keyblade through it. The thing dissolved into dust, but even so more creatures began to appear. Naruto glowered and created a dozen more clones. It soon devolved into a hack-and-slash routine. Over and over, Naruto's clones easily dispatched the monsters, and yet more and more kept appearing. After 15 minutes, Naruto was about to make a clone to go find help, as he wasn't sure he could keep these things contained for much longer. When they all vanished. Ha! Naruto panted, looking around. His remaining clones did the same. Yo, Naruto! Gah! Naruto shouted, turning and throwing his keyblade as hard as he could at the voice. Though chakra boosted, the speaker had little difficulty avoiding it. Naruto gaped as he stared at Kakashi. The copy nin stared back, his single eye showing an almost bemused expression. Sakura's found the cat, and Sasuke is done with his special training. Are you finished? Naruto took a deep breath. Almost. I was attacked by numerous dark creatures that wanted to eat my soul. Yeah, that'll go over well. Looks like you were fighting a rather fierce battle, Kakashi observed dryly. Naruto smiled nervously, rubbing the back of his head. Well, I decided to, get some extra training in. You know. Because to be honest, these missions really suck. Kakashi raised his single visible brow, and shrugged. Well, since we have to go to the mission office anyway, I'm sure we can find something more exciting, right? Naruto nodded. That sounds great, Kakashi-sensei. Anything's gotta be better than this. Kakashi chuckled a bit as Naruto shoved the last piece of junk mail into the mailbox, and they headed back for the village proper. Emerging from a burst of dark fire, a tall woman watched them go. Dressed in black, spiky robes, with a horned headpiece and green-tinged skin, she exuded a menacing air that dominated the atmosphere. Tapping her tall, green orb-tipped staff on the ground next to her, she waited. A black crow appeared, cawing before landing on the orb. Much sooner than we anticipated, my dear, she spoke quietly, regally, with an ethereal tone. The crow cawed in acknowledgement as the woman frowned. We will have to accelerate our plans. Watch him, she ordered. The crow bowed, before taking off for the village. The woman lingered a moment longer, before vanishing in a plume of dark fire in much the same way she had appeared. Down the ridge, Kakashi paused and turned back, looking over his shoulder. Under his mask, he frowned. Naruto blinked and turned back curiously. Kakashi-sensei. Something wrong? The silver-haired jounin turned back and shook his head. Nothing, Naruto. Kakashi's single visible eye narrowed as he traced the flight of a blackbird in the clear blue skies above. Nothing at all. Chapter 8, Return to Wave Mission Point 1. Oh, thank you so much for rescuing my cat. The daimyo's wife gushed, rubbing her chubby cheeks against her screeching cat's. Naruto looked over his other teammates. Sasuke had a surly scowl on his face, and his eye would twitch at regular intervals. Sakura's long pink hair was mussed, her forearms were covered in scratches, and she could not stop death-glaring the cat as though trying to set it on fire with her mind. That would be a cool jutsu, Naruto absently thought, as the daimyo's wife placed her payment with the Hokage sitting at the missions table. Numerous aides worked the desk, filing paperwork. Irika sat next to the Hokage, and gave the blonde a smile as he caught his eye. Naruto managed a smile back, as the Hokage looked up from whatever paper he was scrutinizing. Well, not bad Team 7. 2 missions a week so far. Care to try for 3? The Hokage rummaged through a stack of papers and pulled out one sheet. Ah, this looks good. Little Mahama Chio is having her birthday party. Sasuke paled even more than usual at this. No, the Uchiha stated quickly. Naruto failed to stifle a snicker as Sasuke glared at the Hokage, then him, then the room in general. Sakura nodded tiredly with her crush. Very well, the Hokage said with a small smile, the Nabeshin's dog got away and… No. No thank you. Heck no. Naruto exploded, the horror of the last time they went to retrieve a pet coming back to him. Sasuke and Sakura nodded furiously as Kakashi smiled. Look, old man, can't you give us something better? We've been training our butts off for over a month and we're sick of the D-rank missions. Come on, I have to agree. These missions are a waste of my time, Sasuke thought. He has a point, but does he have to yell it so loudly? Sakura mentally sighed. Naruto. Don't be disrespectful to the Hokage. Irika bellowed, standing up and shaking his fist. But these missions suck. Come on, we can handle a better one. Right, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto looked to his instructor hopefully. The Hokage frowned and looked questioningly at Kakashi, who shrugged. Well, they have improved. Somewhat, Kakashi responded, giving Sakura a significant glance. The pink-haired girl winced, as the Hokage looked thoughtful. Well, there is a C-rank mission available. An escort mission, to Wave Country, Naruto whooped. Oh yeah. We'll take it, old man Hokage. The blonde ran forward and grabbed the mission info packet from the Hokage, while Irika sighed at his favorite student's lack of manners. So, who are we escorting? Naruto eagerly asked. A princess? A famous actress? The blonde summoned the keyblade and began to swing it about excitedly, as the Hokage merely smirked. Hokage pointed to the door. Naruto turned with a grin, which immediately devolved into a face fault at the dirty-looking old man standing in the entrance. Faye. This is my escort. They don't look like much. Especially the stupid-looking midget with the giant toy. It's a keyblade, you bastard. Naruto bellowed. Kakashi sighed and grabbed onto the hood of Naruto's jacket, keeping the cursing blonde from running their client through. Hello, Sakura said politely, as Sasuke just glared. The old man burped, and took another swig of alcohol. This is Tazuna, a bridge builder, the Hokage began, but Tazuna interrupted. Master bridge builder, he corrected. The Hokage looked as though he were resisting the urge to roll his eyes. Master bridge builder, who is on his way home to Wave Country. Escort him there and make sure he arrives safe and sound. Sure, I can't get a few chunin. I mean, what good are these punks gonna be? Tazuna complained. Naruto growled, and Kakashi moved to restrain him again. That's rich, coming from an old drunk. The blonde taunted. Why, you little brat? If you were a few years younger, I'd throw you across my knee and tan your hide. Tazuna replied angrily. Naruto smirked back. Sorry, I'm not into men, you old pervert. Kakashi sighed as Naruto and Tazuna continued to bicker. Sakura watched while obviously trying not to laugh, and Sasuke just scowled. Right then, Kakashi spoke, bringing the argument to a halt. Sasuke, Naruto, Sakura, go home and pack for a long-duration mission. Meet me by the main gates in 15 minutes, we're leaving immediately. Oh, and Sakura, don't bring any makeup. Looking good in battle is not going to help. The pink-haired girl flushed, glaring at him as a few of the Hokage's aides snickered. Not like she needs makeup to look good though, Naruto laughed. Sakura growled even as her blush intensified. It was all the warning the blonde got. Oh www. Sakura-chan, why does this have long mission written all over it? Kakashi asked himself. For days later, Kakashi knew the answer. The team's trip had been rather uneventful up to the point they crossed the fire/water country border. Tazuna had been a near-nervous wreck the whole way, alternating between grumbling about his escorts and getting into shouting matches with Naruto. Sakura had stuck to Sasuke near constantly, chattering happily to her crush about seemingly anything and everything that came to mind. The Uchiha, predictably, had tuned her out as much as possible during the day, while practicing with his new blade at night. Naruto had asked to train with Sasuke, but the Uchiha had declined flatly, so Naruto had spent much of his time sending out Kage Bunshins to patrol the area, or fighting them. On the fourth day, however, their routine changed dramatically when a pair of mist ninja attacked, killing him and immediately splitting up to strike both Naruto and Tazuna. Fortunately, the two missing ninja weren't prepared for Naruto's new weapon or Sasuke's increased training, and they were able to hold them off long enough for Kakashi to get in behind them and knock them out. He'd had his genins and Tazuna leave him alone with the two tied-up ninja, and after a rather creative use of genjutsu, they were willing to spill everything about their mission, their boss, and the fact that they were both virgins. That last one, Kakashi hadn't needed to know. Still, the rest of their information had been useful. And Kakashi had confronted Tazuna with it. You lied about who was after you. Gato, the crime lord, the silver-haired Jounin had accused. Tazuna gulped at the killer intent being directed at him. I didn't have enough money for an A-rank mission. And this bridge dash. I hope you're proud of yourself, really, because if my students weren't as good as they are, you would have had the deaths of 3 children on your conscience, Kakashi had replied coldly. Sakura had looked a little pale. Actually, she'd been pale ever since she'd seen Kakashi killed, but both Sasuke and Naruto swelled up in some pride. Well, look. Please. This isn't just about me. It's about my country, my people. They need this bridge built, otherwise Gato's oppression will continue. You know about it, right? At Kakashi's nod, Tazuna continued. Please, I know I can't pay you more, but if you do this, you'll be helping an entire nation. Thousands of people are counting on me. If you abandon me. Tazuna bit his lower lip and backed off, looking away. So? This bridge is your hope, Kakashi murmured thoughtfully, before he turned to his students. Well, how about it? This mission's no longer C rank. It's at least B rank or more. There will be more missing ninja coming after Tazuna, probably more powerful than those two we faced before. There is a very good chance some of you might not come back alive. Sasuke snorted, as Naruto smirked. I'm in, the Uchiha explained. Naruto nodded, leaning his keyblade back against his shoulder. Me too. I mean, this is what we wanted. And I'm not going to back down from a challenge. Kakashi turned to Sakura, who was wrenching her hands. You can probably make it back to Konoha on your own from here, the Cyclopean ninja stated, not unkindly. Sakura bit her lip, before shaking her head. I'm in too, the pink-haired girl said nervously. Kakashi nodded. Well then. Let's go, shall we, Tazuna? I think we both have missions to complete. The hideout of Zabuza Momochi was isolated in the cold bogs of northern water country. The trees grew thick here, blotting out the sun overhead and casting the area into everlasting shadows. The thick mists and dangerous animals roaming the forest added to its mysterious and supernatural aura, but this did not matter to Zabuza. He was the demon of the mist, after all. The conditions of northern water country were perfectly suited to his method of fighting and killing, allowing him to turn the forest into his personal hunting ground. Into this place came Gato. Zabuza snorted at the two samurai serving as the crime boss's escort, as he reclined in his throne-like chair. Haku, his partner and apprentice, stood at his side, white hunter ninja mask concealing the younger ninja's face. My sources tell me that the two you sent after the old man were defeated, the rodent-like Gato sneered, by a group of children and their teacher. Now, what were the words you used to describe this mission to me, HM? Easy, I believe, was one of the words. No challenge. And yet, Tazuna still lives. Exactly what is wrong with this picture? Zabuza rolled his eyes, shifting in his chair slightly. Hidden from Gato's view, the two demon brothers, said defeated ninja, were clearly frightened at the shipping magnate's words. The demon of the mist mentally sighed. I talked with them. And the old man's gotten himself some unusually strong escorts for his money. Have you heard of Hatake Kakashi? Gato's eyebrows raised. The Jounin of Konoha? Surely two Chunin could handle him. See, this is why I am a ninja, Gato, and you are not. Actually, there are several reasons why, but the point is, Hatake Kakashi is a legend, among the best ninja ever produced by Konoha. They're the superpower for a reason. So, he is too much for you, then? Gato sneered. Haku tensed, but at a hidden signal from Zabuza backed down. Zabuza leaned forward only a little. No. Merely a rare challenge for me. He will fall, the old man will die, and you pay me. End of story. A sudden movement from a window caught Zabuza's attention. But, seeing that it was simply a black crow swooping in, the demon of the mist relaxed. He was still somewhat puzzled when it dropped a note into Gato's hands and flew off. Gato opened the letter and scanned it, a disgusting smirk emerging on his rat-like face. Oh, one more thing, Gato added, folding the note up and sticking it into his expensive-looking coat pocket. One of the genin with Tazuna. A business relation of mine has an interest in him. Zabuza raised a hairless brow. Yeah. So, in return for his elimination, I am willing to. Oh. Triple your pay. Zabuza felt like widening his eyes in disbelief, but his training kicked in and kept his face impassive. Oh? And what's so important about this kid? He bears an item of great value to my associate. Get it for me, and I can ensure that you and your crew will live comfortably for the rest of your lives. Zabuza frowned. Fine. Who is this Brett then? There was a strange aura from the crime boss, one that caused an emotion in Zabuza. One he hadn't felt in so long, that it took a moment to identify it. Fear. A fear that seemed to tighten around him as Gato grinned and spoke. His name is Uzumaki Naruto. Another day traveling brought them to Wave Country at last, and after the boatman dropped them off on a secluded shore, Team 7 and Tazuna began the trek for the old man's village. As they reached the main road, Naruto froze, hand twitching. Kakashi paused and looked back at his blonde student. Naruto. What is dash? The keyblade flashed into existence in his hand, just as the copy ninja heard a whistle. Down! Kakashi roared, and the group dropped, Tazuna shoved to the ground by Sakura, as a huge sword flew overhead. It embedded itself in a nearby tree, as a tall, bandage-clad ninja dropped to it, standing with his back turned to the group. Well, he knows how to make an entrance, Naruto quipped, pushing himself back up to his feet. Sakura helped Tazuna back up, who was grimacing. Did you have to push so hard? The old man complained. Sakura grimaced. You're welcome, she muttered. Sasuke merely glared up at the ninja, who was chuckling in a muffled way. Hatake Kakashi, the legendary copy ninja, the man spoke, turning around and facing them. This is an honor. Momochi Zabuza. The demon of the mist. A rank missing ninja from Kirigakure, Kakashi returned flatly. What business do you have here? Nothing personal, Zabuza replied, but I have to kill the old man. And the blonde brat. Naruto gulped a bit as he felt Sasuke, Sakura, and Tazuna's eyes fall on him, but he tried to remain calm. And what interest does Gato have with my student? Kakashi asked coldly. Tazuna winced and mumbled something about, not asking about me, under his breath. Kakashi naturally ignored this. I don't ask questions. I'm just trying to make a living, Zabuza explained with a nearly invisible shrug. Guys gotta eat, after all. Sorry, but it looks like you'll have to go hungry for a little longer, Kakashi stated, as mist rolled in. The Jounin lifted up his headband, revealing his other eye to be blood red and dotted black. Sasuke gasped, as Naruto stared in confusion. That's the Sharingan? How does Kakashi-sensei have it? Sasuke thought. Zabuza chuckled darkly, his laugh seemingly coming from all directions as he vanished from view. Really? And what chance do you think you have against me, even with that fancy eye of yours? Defensive formation D, Kakashi whispered. The genin surrounded the old man on three sides, Sasuke drawing his Chikudo and holding it out in a ready position, as Naruto did the same with his Keyblade. Sakura drew a kunai, looking around frantically. The sound of steel clashing against steel filled the air, and the mist rolled a bit enough for Kakashi to be revealed, blocking Zabuza's massive blade with the kunai. Sensei! Sakura cried out, as Naruto and Sasuke growled. You're making this too easy, you know. Zabuza laughed from all directions again, the eerie echo combined with his killing intent sending a chill down the genin's spines. Tazuna, having faced killing intent like this before, was able to keep standing at least but still trembled. I'm sure you've heard of the Mizubunshin, the missing ninja spoke again, and Naruto caught a bit of movement out of the corner of his eye. He turned to Sasuke, and motioned with his head back towards Sakura. Sasuke blinked, looked, and frowned back. Naruto pantomimed blowing fire with two fingers held in front of his mouth like Sasuke. The Uchiha smirked and nodded. Before he leapt up into the air and made hand seals. Katon, Gakakyu no Jutsu. A massive fireball erupted from Sasuke's mouth and blew through the mist, revealing a surprised-looking Zabuza that was instantly hit. At the same moment, Kakashi ducked down and slashed through his Zabuza's stomach, flesh turning back into water or steam in both cases. Not bad, for a kid, but not good enough. Another Zabuza appeared and swung his blade right through Kakashi's torso, ripping a scream from Sakura's mouth, which abruptly stopped when Kakashi turned into water as well. Zabuza chuckled. So, this is the power of the Sharingan then, the missing ninja mused. Just before a kunai was plunged into the back of his head by Kakashi. Again, Zabuza dissolved into water, and this Kakashi too was caught by another Zabuza. The mist began to lessen, enough to see the nearby lake clearly enough, and another Zabuza, holding Kakashi in a ball of glowing water. Kakashi was struggling to break free, as yet another Zabuza stalked towards the genin, creating a pincer move. Is this the best you can do? Zabuza laughed. You leaf ninjas sure have gotten soft. We'll show you soft. Naruto shouted. Kakashi grimaced. He'd been tempted to tell the genin to retreat and leave him, but that was apparently no longer an option. They were cut off, he was trapped and being drained of chakra. Zabuza laughed at Naruto's declaration. Oh really? When I was your age, kid, I slaughtered my entire graduating class, just to become a genin. You're just a baby pretending to be a ninja. And soon, you'll just be more blood on my blade to wash off. Naruto growled and rushed one of the Mizubunshin, Keyblade swinging. Die, you bastard! This Zabuza clone laughed mockingly and swung his blade. Naruto leapt above the slash and dove like a falcon for the Mizubunshin's face. The Zabuza clone caught the Keyblade and swung it, easily sending Naruto flying back as he lost his grip. Damn it! Naruto cursed. Naruto! Sakura cried out. The clone held up the Keyblade with a scoff. This is what that scum wants. Some oversized dash. In a flash of light, the Keyblade vanished from the clone's hand, and reappeared in Naruto's. The orange-clad genin groaned as he got to his feet and glared at Zabuza, who had raised a single, hairless brow. HRM. Interesting little toy you got there, brat. Where'd you get it? None of your business, you eyebrowless freak. Naruto retorted. The blonde looked back at his team. Sasuke was clearly trying to keep up a glare of his own at the missing nin, even though his fear was obvious. And Sakura was trembling so badly she looked as though she might collapse. Damn it, we should have trained harder. Wait a minute. That's it. Oi, Sasuke. Remember that time we fought? Sasuke glared at him for a moment for his stupidity, before realization flashed in his eyes and a smirk formed on his face. Naruto smirked back. He quickly whispered a few things to the black-haired boy, who then nodded and turned to Sakura. Sakura, stay with Tazuna. You'll just get in the way, the Uchiha ordered. Sakura gulped, but nodded, pulling Tazuna closer to her point of the triangle. Oh, what, you're going to attack me now, little babies? You should have run when you had the chance, the Zabuzas mocked. Naruto grinned. Our sensei taught us that those who don't follow the rules are considered trash. But those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Bah, bunch of touchy-feely nonsense, Zabuza snorted. Naruto snarled, rushing towards the Zabuza between the group and the lake. He formed a single-hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 3 dozen Narutos appeared and swarmed Zabuza, before Naruto turned around for the Zabuza trying to attack Sasuke, Tazuna, and Sakura from behind. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 2 dozen Narutos charged the other Zabuza, just as his first platoon dogpiled the first Zabuza clone. A moment later, all of the orange-clad ninja were knocked away, tumbling to the ground or water and poofing away into smoke. This Zabuza charged the remaining Naruto, who stood perfectly still as his other platoon rushed past Sasuke and charged the rear-attacking Zabuza. Sakura's breath hitched as the missing ninja swung for Naruto. Naruto! She shrieked, as the blade ripped Naruto cleanly in two. Even so, the blonde boy was smirking as he fell apart and burst into smoke. What the dash? This Zabuza started, but was interrupted as Sasuke Uchiha unveiled 2 keyblades in his hands. With a smirk he swung them around and threw them at full strength for the water clone before poofing out of existence himself. What the dash? Sakura gasped as Tazuna gaped, their attention divided between the new dogpile of Narutos also bursting into smoke. This water clone of Zabuza seemed to smirk beneath his mask. Before noticing that one of the Naruto clones hadn't poofed into smoke, but instead, "Gah!" This clone shouted, as Sasuke Uchiha leapt up and slammed his Chikudo through his chest. Meanwhile, the other water clone had avoided one of the thrown keyblades, only to discover that another one had been hiding in its shadow. The second keyblade changed course to hit the clone and revealed it also had a twin hiding in its shadow. All 3 poofed into Naruto's and began furiously striking at the water clone, as the fourth and final keyblade spun for Zabuza. Damn it! He cursed, leaping up to avoid the weapon and still maintaining his grip on the water prison holding Kakashi. The keyblade spun away, before poofing into one last Naruto, holding the real keyblade. Yah! Naruto yelled, throwing a chakra-charged keyblade at full speed for Zabuza. The water country ninja cursed as he moved, releasing Kakashi as the weapon sailed past his hand. Naruto fell into the water with a splash, head emerging again as he grinned triumphantly at Zabuza. Still think we're brats, huh, you eyebrowless freak? The blonde taunted. Zabuza would have responded had he not had to block a strike from Kakashi. The missing ninja could definitely detect an unpleasant smirk under the copy ninja's mask. Zabuza jumped backwards and started chanting, his hands forming signs faster than could be seen, but somehow, Kakashi was matching them, finger for finger, his red eye peeking from his face like a flame. Suiton! They shouted together. Suryudan no Jutsu. Twin water dragons sprang forth from their bodies, coiling around and attacking each other, collapsing into a giant column of water that was gone in an instant as the 2 ninja rushed in, their weapons clashing against each other. Strange, though Zabuza. What's going on? He pulled back and circled around, raising one arm high in the air, and Kakashi had done the same. My movements, he thought. He's completely reading them, said Kakashi. What? Did he read my mind? That damn spiral eye is pissing me off. Zabuza halted for just a second. All you're doing is copying me, he said. No bastard mimic can match the real thing. They were his words, but Kakashi had said them at the exact same time. He rallied, and started making the signs again. You think you're so smart? You'll never open your copycat mouth again, he gasped. There, behind Kakashi, was himself. That's impossible. It must be a genjutsu. Kakashi's Sharingan began to rotate around the pupil. Suiton! He shouted. Daibakufu no Jutsu. Impossible! A great torrent of water surged out of Kakashi's hands, a giant spiral wave the size of a building. It's my jutsu, but I can't stand up to it. Naruto and the others could barely get out of the way in time, and Zabuza found himself pinned to the tree by kunai. Kakashi was already perched on the branch above him. It's over. How? Croaked Zabuza. Can you see the future? I see, your death. 2 Senbon needles pierced Zabuza's neck and he fell face first on the ground. He was right, giggled a petite, masked figure in the trees. You're dead. Chapter 9, Return to Wave Mission Point 2. After the mysterious hunter Nin had taken Zabuza's corpse away, Kakashi had collapsed from chakra exhaustion. The rest of Team 7 had proceeded to carry the unconscious Jounin to Tazuna's home, an old inn in the village. A day later, Kakashi had woken up and startled Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura with the assessment that Zabuza was still alive, given that the hunter Nin had not disposed of Zabuza's body right then and there. Kakashi estimated that Zabuza would be recovered and ready to fight within at least 1 week, so he'd gotten some crutches and began leading the genin into the woods, to begin training in preparation for the next encounter. Naruto had been hoping for some cool new jutsu or something like that. What he didn't expect though. You want us to climb trees without using our hands? The blonde asked incredulously. What use is that? Kakashi smiled, hanging upside down from a large tree's branches by just his crutches and feet. Plenty. Firstly, it gives you the ability to stick to solid surfaces, very useful for a ninja. Secondly, the more chakra you use, over time, the larger your chakra stamina becomes. It's like exercising a muscle, you break it down so it grows back stronger. In addition, this training will improve your chakra control so you don't waste as much chakra. Ha! Waste? Naruto asked. Sakura rolled her eyes. Idiot. It means that you won't keep overloading your jutsus with so much chakra that they fail. Sakura smiled adoringly at Sasuke next to her, who ignored her and looked on with something close to interest at Kakashi. Not only does Sakura understand chakra, she knows how to control and maintain it as well. We talked about someone becoming Hokage one day, didn't we? Seems like Sakura's got the best chance of that, wouldn't you say? And as for the great Uchiha clan, maybe they're not so great after all, Kakashi mused aloud. Sasuke and Naruto death-glared Kakashi the whole way down the tree, until he was standing back on the grass. So then, remember to gather just enough chakra to the bottoms of your feet to stick to the tree. Too much and you'll be repelled, too little and you'll fall off. So, get to it. Naruto groaned, but made the ram seal and gathered chakra to his feet anyway. He chose the same tree Kakashi had climbed, and stuck a foot onto the trunk. He took another step, then another, then kicked off as he felt himself begin to slip. He landed and grunted irritably, before looking over at his teammates. Sasuke had made it about 10 steps up his tree, slashing where he'd made it before backflipping off and landing in a crouch. Sakura was already in the upper branches, swinging about from branch to branch with ease. That's about what I expected from Sasuke and Naruto, Kakashi said quietly. Grumbling, Naruto pulled out a kunai and started running up the tree again. 10. 11. 12. Naruto stopped and gritted his teeth, focusing on staying glued to the trunk. Unconsciously, the keyblade flashes into his hand, and suddenly, ha! Naruto relaxed and stood normally, still stuck to the tree. He grinned. Awesome! The blonde laughed, twirling his weapon about with ease on his fingers. Down below, Sasuke glared up at Naruto, and began his dogged climb up the tree once more. Naruto! No using the keyblade! Kakashi called out. Naruto scowled. Ah, come on. Why not? Because, if you become too reliant on it, if you lose it you will undoubtedly be defeated, Kakashi stated flatly. Naruto sighed, and dismissed the keyblade. Rather than trying to run up the tree once more, he focused on staying right where he was. Without the keyblade's focusing of his chakra, however, it was a lot more difficult. Grr. Gah. Whoa. The blonde waved his arms, before turning and standing with his right shoulder facing the ground. He leaned up, trying to get some more leverage while still hanging on to the tree. Kakashi nodded to himself at this, and was pleased to see Sasuke also climb up and try to stay in one place. It's definitely less dangerous that way. Kakashi turned his gaze to Sakura, who had already made it to the top of her tree and was slowly making her way down. As for her, Sakura, that's enough. Come with me, Tazuna should be headed to the bridge by now, and I have some training you can do. Sakura smiled happily and slid to the ground, waving back at Sasuke as she left. Bye Sasuke-kun. See you later. What? No goodbye for me, Sakura-chan. Naruto shouted back. Sakura scowled. Fine. Bye to you too, Naruto. Don't I at least get a kiss? The blonde whined. Sakura snarled. Not on your life, pal. Ah, Naruto sighed. He turned to glare at Sasuke, who was looking almost amused. Yeah, laugh it up Sasuke-chan, the blonde teased. Sasuke scowled. Shut up, dead last. Make me, you emo bastard. Bet I can make it to the top before you can. You're on. Sakura had hoped this special training of Kakashi's would be something fantastic. All the better to impress Sasuke-kun with. Shinaro, hauling sacks of cement with the rest of the work crew, while Kakashi-sensei just read his book and relaxed in the shade, was not what she had in mind. Damn it. She huffed under her breath, groaning under the weight of the 20-pound bag. She toddled up to the cement mixer and set it on the ground with a grunt, wiping her glistening forehead. Hey, little girl, what are you doing here? Asked a rather large-looking worker with a smirk. Inner Sakura bristled, but outer simply smiled politely while trying not to grit her teeth. I'm helping. My sensei says it's good training, she got out stiffly. The worker laughed, a few other men joining him. You? A little girl like you? Come on, out of the way, we ain't that desperate. Sakura scowled, and Inner Sakura immediately wanted to punch this guy's lights out. Then she saw the 60-pound bag next to the worker and smirked. If chakra can be used to stick to objects, can it also be used to push them away? Cracking her knuckles, Sakura walked past the laughing workers and stood before the 60-pound bag. Forming the ram's seal, she collected a little chakra into her hands then legs. She gripped the bag, making sure her hands stuck to it with chakra, and then pushed with her legs and chakra against the ground. The bag came up easily, almost flying out of her hands, but Sakura kept her grip and held the bag up. She turned around at the fact that the laughter had stopped. Now only dropped jaws filled the silence. Where would you like this? Sakura asked sweetly. Tazuna, having heard the commotion, and now as gobsmacked as his workers, pointed to the mixer. Sakura nodded and ripped the bag open like she would a bag of chips, before pouring it all into the spinning machine. She discarded the bag, panting a bit as she felt a slight burn inside herself. What the? Oh. That's chakra exhaustion. I'm getting close to my limit already. Some distance away, Kakashi chuckled at the spectacle. Keep at it, Sakura. 5 more bags like that one. 5? Sakura screeched back. Kakashi smiled. It's 5, or no dinner, he stated flatly. Sakura, resigned to her fate, walked over to the pile of cement bags and picked up another 60 pounds. Her chakra control is already exceptional, but her physical stamina is practically zero, Kakashi mused. By learning how to enhance her strength with her chakra, she'll build up her reserves much more quickly and be far more useful in the next engagement. Which reminds me. Kakashi sighed and quickly made a water clone, which went off to keep a lookout. He assumed a meditative stance and began to focus his chakra into different shapes and sizes. To his developed senses, his chakra coils were severely imbalanced due to the Sharingan, which he could not deactivate. It drained chakra fast while exposed, which was why Kakashi had to keep it covered. After he'd received the eye, Kakashi had had to meditate daily to adjust his chakra control to compensate for having the Sharingan. However, after retiring from ANBU, he'd reduced the meditation sessions to weekly exercises. Then monthly. Rather than beat himself up for his carelessness, Kakashi was determined to get back into shape. The next encounter with Zabuza, the Jounin vowed, would be the last. The darkness swept over everything. Lands, seas, towns, castles, everything, everyone in its path was consumed. At first they'd thought it was Kuja again, the resemblance between himself and the creatures so close it couldn't be coincidence. But the monsters knew no limits, obeyed no masters. No army, no spell, no eidolon could stop them. And in the end, the little boy mage, out of magic, out of life, fell before the darkness. But, instead of empty, dark oblivion, he heard the sound of birds chirping. Wind in leaves high above him. Scattered sunlight, sprinkling kisses of warmth on his shaded face. The boy opened his eyes. He saw green. How long had it been that he'd seen green? The darkness had consumed everything he thought. His blurry vision alerted him to a patch of yellow above a purplish blob, entering some kind of clearing. The scent of wildflowers filled his nostrils as the breeze blew against his face. The being seemed not to notice him, bending over and picking more flowers nestled at the foot of the trees. His vision cleared, and he saw a girl, dressed in purple and fishnet, bandages wrapped around her forearms, legs, and torso. Was she injured? She didn't look injured. His tired senses soon gave him more information to work with. She had magic, he could feel it from here. Not as great as his, no doubt, but the signature left no doubt in his mind this would and could change. She was physically fit, and by the pouch clanking softly at her side, she was armed. She seemed like a warrior. Which is why he wasn't too surprised when, as a number of shadows that had destroyed his world emerged, she dropped her flowers and let loose with throwing knives, leaping and gracefully avoiding their hungry claws. But her weapons were useless, they were only steel. The mage knew what it would take to stop these creatures. Tiredly, he felt for his staff. Calling out weakly to her, she gaped. He looked like the monsters, true, but she needed to know he wasn't one of them. So he threw her the spare staff, and croaked out, "Point and think, fire." Quickly, the girl caught the weapon easily and, though her face was incredulous, she held out the staff and focused. The boy mage could sense the magic in her being focused by the staff, turning energy into flame as her will merged with the weapon. Fire! With a roar, a blast of flames issued from the staff and blew apart the creatures, returning them to the darkness from which they came. The girl sagged in shock, and, no doubt, magical fatigue, given what his senses were telling him, before slowly, cautiously, edging towards the mage, staff pointed at him. "Who are you?" she demanded. Though clearly shocked and tired, her spirit kept her words harsh. The boy mage was reminded of another blonde he'd known, Vivi Ornitier. Thank you for saving my life. Ino blinked, staff still held at the little boy? Creature? Vivi's head. No problem, she got out, a little confused. You okay? Vivi nodded, his dark face and glowing yellow eyes dipping slightly under the wide brim of his tan, pointed hat. If you don't mind me asking. Where am I? Ino blinked. Konoha. Land of Fire. Eastern Continent. She tried. Vivi shook his head, eyes narrowed as though in a frown. Air. This isn't Terra, is it? Terra? Is that a country? Village? Planet, the boy said. Ino's jaw dropped. Planet? Vivi winced. Yes. Wait. Wait a minute. You're telling me. Wait. Then that means you're space invaders. Ino gasped. Vivi shook his head rapidly. No. No, no, no. No, I'm not. I mean, those things, they are, but not me. I'm not invading anything, really. Ino frowned, staff still trained on Vivi's head. Oh yeah. Then what were those things? And why did they look like you? Vivi sighed, going a little more limp. I dunno. They took my world. Consumed it. And now I'm here. Hey, hang on. Are you okay? Ino asked, bending down and trying to feel for a pulse. Vivi's eyes closed a little more. So tired. He yawned, before his eyes winked out entirely. Ino yanked off his hat, and gaped at the fact that Vivi's head was all black. It was almost like he was the victim of a horrible burn. Only the skin beneath Ino's hands was smooth and, well, skin-like. An alien. He's an alien. Has to be. Damn it, why did I watch those stupid movies with Dad? Ino mentally cursed. She could at least pick up a pulse, which, hopefully, meant that Vivi was okay. Ino knew squat about aliens, but that was a heartbeat she was feeling. Well, I can't just leave you here, the blonde decided. She put his hat back on and lifted the small boy onto her back. So, if anyone asks, you're a big, stuffed toy I found, all right? Ino asked, a small smile on her face. Snore, went Vivi. Ino blinked. Okay. Guess aliens have to sleep too. She tucked the staff into her belt, fingers lingering on the handle. The sensation when she'd willed fire to shoot from the staff. Her chakra seemed to sing in her body. Ino had never felt anything like it, so amazing, so powerful, and apparently, in the hands of an alien. Wizard. Vivi, maybe he was a Vivi in addition to it being his name? Well. Whatever you are, Vivi Ornitier. Welcome to Konoha, Ino said quietly, as she set out for home. Naruto panted, pausing only a moment before rushing back up the trunk. 13. 14. 15. 16. Naruto felt his chakra become unbalanced, and fought the urge to summon the Keyblade. 20. 22. 23. He lost control. Naruto slashed the tree with his kunai before falling back down, landing in a crouch. Panting, he looked over at Sasuke's tree and gritted his teeth. He's still climbing, that's impossible. Naruto thought angrily. Meanwhile, Sasuke marked off his progress and landed back to earth as well. Scrutinizing Naruto's tree, he bared his teeth in a silent snarl. He's catching up to me, little by little. The two genin glared at each other. You! Damn it, how are you getting so good so fast? Are you using that stupid weapon of yours? Sasuke demanded. Naruto growled. No, I'm not. Then how the hell are you catching up to me? Sasuke snarled. Naruto glared right back. Because I'm working hard, dumbass. We're not all geniuses, you bastard. They resumed glaring at each other, before resuming the climb. Well into the night they climbed, until finally, they both reached the tops of their trees. Naruto stared over at Sasuke, who stared back. Before bursting into laughter, Sasuke just smirked back. Looks like a tie, huh bastard, Hn. Sasuke replied. The two got to the ground, and staggered off, together, in silence. When they got to the inn, Naruto collapsed in exhaustion before being able to have dinner, leaving Kakashi to set him on the couch while the others went to bed. Whack! Damn! Whack! Gah! Damn it! Whack! Damn it! Crack! The tree had been a very young oak, sitting near the edge of the forest near Tazuna's home. It was broken about 3 feet above the ground, top bowed to the grass as though in reverence to the one who had felled it. Sakura didn't notice this. She just winced. As Tazuna couldn't spare any lumber for this next part of Sakura's training, his daughter Tsunami and his grandson Inari already requiring the wood to survive, Kakashi had directed the pink-haired girl to some small trees and told her to start honing her strength enhancement. By punching said trees, with her bare knuckles. For 3 whole days now, in addition to the training at the bridge. And Kakashi-sensei expected her to do this for a whole week? Sakura groaned, collapsing to her spandex-covered bottom, as she tiredly looked at the setting sun. She then looked at her bloody knuckles wrapped in stained bandages dismally. Damn it, she muttered again. She'd asked Kakashi-sensei if she could kick the trees, but no, he'd said she had to toughen up first. And how was she supposed to attract Sasuke's attention with bruised, oversized knuckles? Damn that. She seethed, imagining driving her fist into that smiling, masked face. That was one benefit to going through this training, she reflected evilly. Sakura-chan. Sakura jumped back to her feet, prepared to defend herself. Then relaxing, as she saw it was just Naruto. Yeah, Naruto. She bit out, fatigue making her words sharper than usual. The orange-clad boy was holding something behind his back. It's time for dinner. Tsunami-chan made rice and fish, the blonde went on. Sakura frowned. Why is he so quiet? Right. Naruto fidgeted again, before pulling his hands back in front of himself. He held out a package. Sakura blinked as he grinned. Hey, Sakura-chan. I almost forgot. This is for you. Sakura took the package gingerly, before opening it. She blinked and picked out the back, rough pieces of fabric contained within. What? Naruto grinned as she held up the fingerless gloves. I got them from a worker while I was on shift guarding the old man. Old leather gloves, guy said he'd used to box with them. I thought, since Kakashi-sensei's had you training like this, you'd like them. The blonde moved forward, and opened up one of the gloves. Sakura made no move to stop him as he slipped them onto her fingers, one by one, as though playing a baby game with her digits. The warm, tough leather felt good around her aching knuckles, and she made a fist, smiling as her joints loosened just a bit. Sakura turned her smile to Naruto, who blushed and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. There. Well. Thank you, Naruto, Sakura spoke, a bit awkwardly. After all, it was Naruto. The loud, brainless, insensitive moron who just had to have a crush on her, who had just given her a very thoughtful gift. Naruto beamed happily. I'm glad you like M. So, come on. Otherwise Sasuke'll eat everything before us. Sakura scoffed. He will not. He's not the one who slurps up ramen like a starving man all the time. Naruto darted away, as though to keep out of range of her fists, and grinned foxily at her. No, but ramen is the food of the gods. It must be indulged in. To not do so is a crime, I tell you. Sakura snorted, but still wore a smile as she followed the energetic blonde to dinner. A dinner marked by Inari, Tazuna's grandson, shooting his mouth off as Tsunami served the meal. The boy had apparently suffered in silence long enough. Why are you training so hard? God'll just kill you all. It's pointless. Inari stated shrilly. Naruto finished his bowl of rice before glaring at the small boy. You know, you're getting pretty annoying, brat. I'll have you know I'm Uzumaki Naruto. A ninja legend in the making, pal. And I'm not afraid of some sniveling crime lord. Inari glared back, tiny fists at his sides. What would you know about hardship, huh? You're always laughing and smiling. You don't know what it's like to live a rough life. You've got it easy. A deathly chill fell over the table, as Naruto slammed his chopsticks down. Sakura felt fear grip her heart, and some part of her mind noted analytically that this was killing intent. Sasuke, Kakashi, everyone stared at Naruto as he glared so hatefully, so angrily at Inari. The little boy was shaking violently, eyes wide. A hint of red seemed to emerge from Naruto's eyes, as though the irises were trying to decide on a color. I've had it easy. I've had it easy. You don't know squat, you little brat. Listen to yourself whining and complaining like some sorry little victim. You can whimper all day for all I care. You're nothing but a coward. With that, Inari got up from his chair and ran off, leaving a seething Naruto. That little, I'm sorry about that, Tazuna spoke. It's just his father. After Tazuna and Tsunami told all assembled about Inari's father Kaiza, Naruto shook his head and muttered something about more training as he walked out. Sasuke said nothing, just stared at the empty chair and plate the blonde left behind. Naruto had summoned the Keyblade quite some distance away from the house, in a small clearing, and proceeded to create as many Kage Bunshins as he could. Bring it! With every slash, parry, and attack, he tried to forget the feeling that had risen inside him at Inari's statements. It had felt like pure rage. Not quite his own. It just seemed like anger turned into liquid, bubbling up inside him. The memory of what the third Hokage had told him came to mind. Naruto. The Keyblade is tied to your soul, and life force, and therefore your chakra. And, right now, the Kyuubi's demonic chakra is boosting your own, just as the seal was designed to do. But in time, its influence on you may grow. Great. Stupid furball, Naruto cursed. After slaughtering the majority of his clones, he had the remaining ones and himself start climbing the trees again. He may have been exhausted, but he pushed through it, all the while Tazuna's story about Kaiza, the country's hero, echoed in his mind. Haku sighed, brushing her long black hair out of her eyes as she picked through the forest. It had been a long night. Zabuza-sama had suffered some complications from the technique she'd used to put him into a coma, and she'd used up all their medicinal herbs and potions to heal him. What was worse, Gato had come, again, to berate Zabuza-sama, again. Haku had been so tempted to put Senbon through his eyeballs. His samurai bodyguards barely qualified as meat shields, they'd be dead before they could. Her senses detected a rather low-level chakra signature. She frowned, analyzing it as she stealthily headed towards the source. Her eyes soon came into contact with a blonde, orange and black-clad boy, lying unconscious near a tree. In one hand, he held a kunai. In the other, it's him, she thought. The boy they'd been assigned to eliminate. Uzumaki Naruto. Haku reined in her excitement and carefully considered the situation. He was alone. He was exhausted. The Keyblade was right there. No other significant chakra signatures were nearby. She could kill him right here and the Keyblade. The mission. She approached, kneeling down next to the boy. She frowned, mentally tracing his features. He was somewhat small for his age, tanned, and a slight baby face. Whisker-shaped scars decorated his cheeks, 3 on each side. His spiky yellow hair looked fur-like, and with his ninja headband having come loose at some point in his sleep, gently fell over his forehead. Her pale fingers slowly reached out, stretching towards the boy's neck. Her training coldly reminded her that a quick snap of the neck, and the boy would die painlessly. He grimaced, and Haku froze, hand centimeters from his throat. I'm sorry. Please. He murmured in his sleep, and Haku bit her lower lip. Part of her tried to will her fingers forward again. I'm not a monster. Please. I'm sorry, he murmured again, and Haku took a deep, silent breath. Her hand shook once, before she pulled it back. The anguish in the boy's voice. "You'll catch a cold if you sleep here. Wake up." Haku spoke. The boy stirred, and opened his eyes blearily. "Who the heck are you?" "Oh." The boy blushed at seeing Haku's face. "Hi there. Who are you? I mean, what are you doing out here and all that?" Haku smiled cheerfully. "I'm gathering herbs." "Herbs?" "Yes, for treating injuries and illness." "Ah," the boy acknowledged. "I'm Naruto." "Haku," the girl returned politely. "So, starting work early, huh, Nei-chan?" Naruto asked. "I like it early. It's calm, and I didn't think I'd find anyone sleeping out here in the woods," Haku chuckled. The blonde smiled. "I was training all night. Guess I got carried away," he laughed, rubbing the back of his head. So are you a ninja? Because I noticed that headband you're wearing. Or are you just trying to make a fashion statement?" Haku asked, slightly teasingly. The memory of Naruto's involvement in the battle against Zabuza came loud and clear in her mind. "You noticed that? Cool. Well, only real ninja get to wear the hey, where'd it go?" Naruto felt his forehead and his eyes widened. Wordlessly, Haku handed him his handband. The blonde chuckled again, as Haku joined him. "Ah ha, ha. Thanks. So, why are you out here training, Naruto?" Haku inquired. Naruto shrugged, tying his headband back on. "To get stronger, I guess." "Oh? You aren't strong enough?" Haku asked. Naruto shook his head, expressing turning melancholy. Unbidden, Haku felt her heart go out to him. She quickly stamped it down. "No. Maybe the problem is, I have too much strength. And I don't know how to control it," Naruto spoke, holding the keyblade up a bit. He glared at the weapon, and Haku regarded it covertly herself. "Odd, it doesn't look sharp. But it clearly focuses chakra, and with how he can summon it. Too much strength? I'm not sure I understand," Haku spoke quietly. Naruto sighed. "I mean, I've been given, well, this great responsibility. This power. And it's something that's been used for good, but also, evil. If I don't learn how to control it, it'll. Well, I have no idea what it could do." Naruto grit his teeth, and Haku bit her lip. "You're afraid. It will destroy those precious to you," Haku spoke. Naruto blinked and turned to her again, nodding. "Yeah." Haku smiled gently, and placed a hand over Naruto's. The boy blushed at this, as Haku locked eyes with him. "I have found that if you focus, not so much on your power, but why you use it and for whom, it's much easier. If you use your power for the protection of those you love, who are precious to you, then controlling it becomes easier. And, more than that, you become stronger for it." Naruto frowned. "I become stronger? Power by itself is only power," Haku spoke, "but power with a purpose combines with that purpose. For people who are precious to you, you will fight harder and longer to keep them safe, because they in turn give you strength. Understand?" Naruto nodded, and smiled happily. "Wow. Thanks, Nei-chan. You're really smart." Haku nodded and smiled. She rose and turned to go, before looking back over her shoulder. "Oh, and by the way, I'm really a boy." Naruto's jaw dropped. "No. No way." He murmured in disbelief, as Haku giggled. "Just kidding." Naruto immediately relaxed, and chuckled. "That wasn't very nice, Nei-chan. It was funny though, wasn't it?" teased Haku. Naruto smirked. "Yep. One prankster to another, I can definitely appreciate it." "So, can I walk you home, Nei-chan?" Haku smiled and shook her head. "No. My heart knows the way." "Ha! Your heart." Haku turned away, her smile becoming sad as she departed. "The heart always knows the way home. It's walking the path that's the hard part," she replied quietly, leaving Naruto to stare at her back as she vanished. Some time later, she arrived back at Zabuza's base. Immediately, she sensed a presence in the hideout, and created a senbon with her bloodline limit as she entered. Zabuza was sitting up, face mask off. She started. "Zabuza-sama. You shouldn't dash." Shut it, Haku, Zabuza stated flatly. He smirked as he held up some oddly shaped bottles. That partner of Gato sent some medicine. Relax, I checked it for poison. This stuff works wonders. Called it an elixir, or something. Anyway, get ready. We've got to start planning for the next attack. Haku thought of Naruto, and her heart felt heavy. Very well, Zabuza-sama. Chapter 10, Return to Wave Mission Point 3. Ino finished her meal with a happy sigh, smiling at her mother across the kitchen table. Thanks, Mom. That was great. Yamanaka Yuki frowned and raised a pale eyebrow at her only daughter. You've been eating a lot more lately, Ino-chan. Off your diet? Ino shrugged casually. Well, Asuma-sensei says that I'll burn off any fat on missions, so I shouldn't worry about it. May I be excused? Yuki nodded, gathering the dishes and taking them to the sink with a smile. Personally, she was glad her daughter's sensei was getting through to Ino. All of these silly diets and fads, she knew enough about the shinobi world to know that such things would be no help to bringing her daughter back safely. She chewed on her fingernail absently as she listened to her daughter head upstairs to her room, before resuming washing the dishes. That's funny, she thought. I could have sworn I laid out more bowls than this. Upstairs, Ino closed the door to her bedroom. She pulled out a small box from under her skirt, which she set on the floor. And quickly made a hand seal. Kai! Poof! Several potatoes, a bowl of rice, fish, and dumplings emerged, sitting prettily. The blonde looked around. Vivi? You there? She turned to the closet and frowned. She walked up and opened it, raising an eyebrow at the little mage sitting next to an old, oversized teddy bear. Vivi, I've got dinner, Ino sighed. She walked over to the mage and poked him. Blinking in shock as the stock-still figure poofed out of existence. Ino's sweat dropped. Oh, hello Ino, Vivi spoke behind her. Ino jumped and turned around, glaring. Vivi! Damn it, don't do that. The little mage laughed nervously. Sorry, I was practicing this spell in one of your scrolls and Ino blinked. Wait a minute. You mastered the Bunshin no Jutsu. In how long? Vivi shrugged. A few hours. Ino gaped. Vivi's yellow eyes became crescents as he laughed nervously again. I got bored and... It took me a year to get that jutsu. Ino exclaimed. She smirked and shook her head, waving her finger at him. That's not very fair, Vivi-kun. The black mage blinked. Now, you have to teach me something, Ino decreed. Vivi blinked. But I already taught you a couple of things. Ino sighed. Yeah, but... Seriously, a shrinking jutsu? What good is that? Vivi crossed his arms. It lets you feed me. And it's a spell, not a jutsu, the mage scowled. Ino crossed her arms over her chest and scowled back. Come on. I saved you from those. Whatever they were. I've kept you hidden in my house for a week now, and fed you. And you know one of my jutsus. Fair is fair, Vivi-san. The black mage sighed and adjusted his hat. Yes, but it's just that. Well, Ino looked expectantly at Vivi. The mage coughed. I have enough trouble understanding how my powers work. I don't know if I could be a good teacher. You taught me that mini jutsu, okay, fine, spell, Ino corrected at Vivi's look. And I could make fire without any training. Come on. It's not like I'd abuse them. No, but you're a ninja. Well. Vivi sighed. I just don't like using my powers on people. And if I taught them to you, I'd have to accept the fact that you'd be using the spells against other people. Ino bit her lip, lowering her arms to her sides. This was something she herself was having difficulty with. Originally, she'd become a ninja because, in all honesty, she wanted to be like her father. Sasuke had entered the equation later, but at the heart of her efforts lay just that she wanted to carry on her family's legacy. She wanted to make her dad happy and proud. And her mother too, though her mother would be happier if she stayed at home and became a florist. Not that she didn't like flowers, she loved them, but at her core, Ino knew she couldn't be happy with just that. I know. It's just that. Ino sighed. How can I explain this to him when I'm having trouble explaining it to myself? Ino decided to just go for it. It was how she was taught, after all. Vivi. I'm the weakest member of my team. Chuji has his strength, Shikamaru's a genius, and me, well. I've got nothing, aside from one family jutsu. One. And for protecting my friends, it's nearly useless, Ino said quietly. The mage stared at her, glowing yellow eyes for once betraying nothing. I don't want to be useless anymore, the blonde went on, matching Vivi's gaze. I don't want to just stand around, you know. Ino bit her lip again. Vivi said nothing, for some time, just staring back. Before nodding with a slight sigh. Okay. The mage rummaged about in his pockets, before pulling out what appeared to be a tiny stick. Holding his staff over it, he mumbled something before it popped into another staff. He handed it to Ino, who looked between it and Vivi's staff. Vivi's staff was like dull bronze in color and texture, curling upwards in a spiral that ended in a wing-like attachment, arcing upwards away from a deep red orb. When she was close to it, Ino could feel the raw power it contained, buzzing the air around her. The other staff, however, it's... What is that thing anyway? Ino asked, holding the plain wooden object with some distaste. Its head curled up into itself like a seashell, while its handle was wrapped in bandages. Vivi tapped it twice with his staff, and Ino was surprised to see it extend nearly twice its original size, making it more of a quarterstaff to her. That is my first staff, Vivi said with a touch of nostalgia to his voice. It's better tuned to fire-type spells than anything else, which makes it easier to learn on. Ino blinked. Well. Essentially, if you use magic chakra, I guess with this staff, you can do fire spells without too much effort, because it shapes your magic chakra, into fire, until you can learn how to do it yourself. Ino nodded in understanding. Like training wheels on a bike? The mage blinked at her. What's a bike? Ino's sweat dropped. Never mind. So? How many staves do you have anyway? Every single one I ever learned a spell on, Vivi said proudly. Ino grinned at this. Oh? Bit of a pack rat, huh? Well, when you shrink them, they don't take up a lot of room, the mage explained. Besides, my best friend got most of them for me. Ino frowned as Vivi trailed off. Best friend. The mage nodded. Yeah. His name was Zidane. You remind me of him, actually. Oh? Was he good-looking, confident, and altogether wonderful? Ino asked with a smile. Vivi blinked. Yes. Exactly like that, the mage replied, thinking that a certain blonde boy with a tail was laughing at him from heaven. Kakashi had found Naruto conked out after another all-nighter of training furiously, and rather than let him sleep outside, again, he took him into Tazuna's house and put him on the couch. Sasuke and Sakura had finished their morning exercises, and the Jounin decided to take them both with him to the bridge with Tazuna. The deadline for Zabuza's counterattack was near. On their way to the construction site, a low mist covering the area, Kakashi could not help but reflect on how pleased he was with their progress, especially in such a short amount of time. Already, he could sense that Sakura's chakra reserves had increased considerably, and the crash course training was already showing in her improved muscle tone. She tied that ridiculously long hair of hers into a tight ponytail, which, while not being as short as he'd like, nevertheless was better than letting it go every which way in a fight. Also, the way she carried herself. She was prepared for battle. Thank God she's a fast learner, the Jounin thought to himself. Before mentally face-faulting as she gave Sasuke a lovesick look, which the Uchiha predictably ignored. Not as fast as I'd like though. Sasuke, Kakashi now observed, had also improved. He was already suppressing his chakra signature, and he could tell by the way Sasuke moved that he was sensing chakra far more acutely than before. His hand was already on the hilt of his sword, and Kakashi looked at him. Sasuke looked back. He's here, they both thought. Sakura, looking between them both, frowned as well and discreetly got behind Tazuna, looking over her shoulder and listening. She pulled on her gloves as they reached the bridge. The construction site came into view. And Kakashi cursed his instincts as the bodies of fallen workers came into view. What the dash? Dosu. Jin. What happened? Tazuna exclaimed, rushing forward while Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke kept up, scanning the area. Zabuza. He said he was. One of the workers gasped out, as Tazuna fell to his knees and tried to hold up his head. Kakashi looked forward, eye narrowed. The mist parted, just enough for two figures to be revealed. Zabuza stared defiantly back at the Jounin, a smirk underneath his face wrappings, while the hunter Nin stood at his side, the mask obscuring anything else substantial. I see you were expecting me, Zabuza laughed. Kakashi glared back. Your friend slipped up, the copy ninja observed. Sakura harumphed. He's got some nerve facing us again after pulling that trick. The pink-haired girl growled, glaring at the masked ninja. And hiding behind a mask, Kakashi added. Who does he think he's fooling? Sakura sweat dropped. Ahem, speak for yourself, sensei, Sakura noted. Kakashi gave her a nice smile, before turning back to the missing Nin. Why exactly did you bring the brat pack with you again? There'll just be blood on my blade. The boy is shaking in fear already, Zabuza gloated. Sasuke smirked, drawing his blade and holding it up. I'm not trembling in fear. I'm trembling in excitement, the Uchiha returned smoothly. Sakura sighed happily, before coughing and quickly assuming a fighting stance. Zabuza laughed at this, as Kakashi shook his head. You've made a big mistake, Zabuza, the Jounin stated. Oh really? And what was that? The missing Nin leered, insulting these ninja and calling them brats. That's sure to bring out Sasuke's attitude, and he's the best young fighter of the Hidden Leaf Village, Kakashi spoke, and Sasuke's smirk widened. He moved forward ahead of the others, sword held in a ready stance. Sakura here is our sharpest mind, and much stronger than she looks, Kakashi indicated next, and Sakura smiled unpleasantly, cracking her knuckles. And last, but not least, our number one, hyperactive knucklehead ninja, is Naruto Uzumaki. Back at Tazuna's house, a certain blonde ninja sneezed, groggily beginning to wake up. Now then. Shall we begin? Kakashi asked, kunai already in hand. Zabuza smirked. Certainly. Leaping over the sides of the bridge, 6 Zabuza Mizu Bunshin appeared, surrounding Sasuke. 2 more came at the Leaf Ninja and Tazuna from behind, swords swinging in unison. Kakashi turned back, but Sakura was already in motion. The pink-haired girl grabbed Tazuna and, despite the old man's screeching protest, tossed him into the air, before she leapt forward, landing on the dull edge of the first Zabuza clone's sword. In its surprise, it didn't react in time to stop Sakura's chakra-enhanced fist smash through its face, dissolving the whole thing into water. The next clone charged from the side, but Sakura leapt away, catching the shrieking Tazuna in midair. Kakashi dispatched this clone with a single kunai as it gaped, wide-eyed, at the spectacle, and Kakashi turned back once he was sure Sakura had landed with Tazuna safely. Sasuke had leapt up and taken down one Zabuza clone easily, getting within its defenses and slashing its water-filled head off, but not before using its falling torso to spring back at the one behind him. A kick to the throat crushed this clone's neck, returning him to water once more. The last 3 clones charged Sasuke as one, to which Sasuke quickly detached the sheath of his sword and swung it around in his spare hand. Catching the first Bunshin's blade and forcing it down, Sasuke jabbed it through the chest, leaping up and backflipping, landing a twin kick to the faces of the 2 remaining clones, snapping their necks with a bit of chakra enhancement to his speed. Sasuke landed with a flourish, smirking at Zabuza. Ha! Not bad, brat, the missing ninja stated. Haku. Take care of him. Yes, Zabuza-sama, Haku stated. With that, the ninja produced 2 Senbon needles and leapt forward, stabbing at Sasuke. Sasuke knocked back the blows, slashing back furiously. Haku evaded or blocked the attacks, back-flipping away and throwing additional Senbon. Sasuke blocked them, leaping away and landing on the side of the bridge, kicking off and plunging his sword for the missing Nin's heart. Haku leapt away and ran away on the side wall of the bridge, Sasuke pursuing, as Zabuza made his attack against Kakashi. Clang! I hope you said goodbye to your student. Because he's not coming back, Zabuza laughed, pulling back and swinging his blade for Kakashi's head. This blow was also blocked by Kakashi's kunai, and the white-haired Jounin spun away, making hand seals. I wouldn't count on it. Zabuza grinned beneath the wrappings. No one can match Haku. The most skilled Jounin fall before him, just as you will fall before me. Right now. The mist grew even deeper and Zabuza vanished. Kakashi cursed. Sakura. Keep Tazuna safe. Sakura grimaced, but nodded. Right, you're not going to throw me into the air again, are you? Tazuna grumbled. Sakura didn't answer as she herded him off the bridge. She didn't like being surrounded on 2 sides by water. One side would be much better. Meanwhile, Kakashi moved forward, bearing his Sharingan. The chakra drain began in earnest, but the copy ninja adjusted his coils to compensate. While the drain was still fairly significant, it would not limit Kakashi's endurance as much as before. He's right, it's time to end this, the Jounin thought grimly, Buthius the one who will fall. Unnoticed by anyone on the bridge, a black crow circled high overhead, yellow eyes on the battle. I've had some bad mornings, but this is definitely one for the record. Naruto rushed out of the house to the sound of Tsunami screaming. The keyblade had already appeared in his hand, which was as good a sign as any that something very bad was going on. He tracked the screams to the dock near the house, and saw Inari running right at two samurai, holding a bound Tsunami between them. The little boy was screaming as he charged, and the two goons merely grinned, blades coming up to cut down Inari. Just as they slashed Inari to pieces, however, they found something strange had happened. Tsunami stopped screaming as she saw, instead of the bloody chunks of her son, chopped pieces of a log clattering to the deck. You know, began a familiar voice behind the two samurai and single woman, there are a lot of things I can abide. But killing kids, or hurting women. The two samurai turned around to see a single, orange and black clad ninja, growling at them from underneath blonde bangs. Just really pisses me off. The samurai felt blades slamming through their backs, and screamed as they were kicked in the heads into the waves on either side of the dock. Inari looked up in awe as Naruto strode forward, dismissing his Kage Bunshin with a grin as he knelt down and untied Tsunami. The woman hugged her son and Naruto closely, sobbing happily. When she let go, Naruto turned to Inari and grinned at him. You know, that was really dumb. Brave, but dumb. Good work, the blonde complimented. Inari grinned. Thank you, Naruto Onyai-san. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. No sweat. Naruto, where is your forehead protector? Tsunami asked. Naruto felt his forehead, and cursed. He searched his pockets, triumphantly retrieving it from his pants. Found it. Tsunami smiled. Well, I have to say Naruto. You look very handsome with it off. Naruto blinked. Really? Tsunami laughed. Yes, really. Naruto shrugged, before tying it onto his right bicep. He grinned as Tsunami nodded encouragingly. Thanks Tsunami-ne-chan. Now, I've got to get to the bridge. And with that, Naruto was off. He followed the sounds of fighting he heard through the mist to their source, and the first thing he spotted was an undeniably strange sight. The hell? Floating. Mirrors? Naruto mumbled. As he got closer, he could begin to hear Sasuke and another person talking. Hey wait. I know that voice. Naruto's musings were interrupted as a fireball erupted in the center of the ice mirror dome. Katon, Gakakyu no Jutsu. The fireball hit all of the mirrors, trying to punch through the dome, but to no avail, the mirrors held fast. Naruto kept running, and made several Kage Bunshin, which all leapt through the gaps in the mirrors into the dome. Sasuke! Naruto shouted, as he mentally directed his clones to attack the nearest mirrors. The raven-haired boy was in bad shape, Senbon needles sticking out of several spots on his body. His eyes had turned dark red, and glared at Naruto as he approached. Oh, brilliant! Coming inside the mirrors. Great idea, dead last. Hey pal. Show some gratitude. I came to save you after all. Naruto retorted. Several poofs alerted him to the fact that his clones had been dispatched, and the blonde dodged rolled forward to avoid a barrage of Senbon needles. He looked up and scowled. It's the same ninja from before. Indeed, every mirror had one of the hunter ninja, who had spirited Zabuza to safety after their first encounter. Each image began throwing more Senbon, and Naruto made several more Kage Bunshin to try and divide their fire. Sasuke tiredly tried to deflect several projectiles coming from one side, but more hit him in the back, making him cry out. Naruto put his back to the Uchiha and began spinning the Keyblade at high speed to shield himself and Sasuke from that angle. So, any ideas? Naruto asked. Think that Keyblade of yours could punch through one of those mirrors with chakra imbuement? Sasuke replied, Sharingan eyes narrowed. Naruto frowned. Not sure. What have you got in mind? If you can take out enough of this guy's mirrors, I can track his movements and nail the real one. The Uchiha got out. Naruto grinned. Gotcha. Leave it to me. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Half a dozen more Narutos appeared and spun up their Keyblades, spinning them to deflect Haku's projectiles in a circle around their creator and Sasuke. Once all of the clones' Keyblades were powered up with chakra, they shouted and let them go at the same time, driving each weapon deep into one of Haku's mirrors. The original Naruto leapt and struck a random mirror, while Sasuke tried to track down the real Haku. Almost. Almost. The Uchiha thought, leaping into the air. Got him. Katon, Gakakyu no Jutsu. Another massive fireball left Sasuke's mouth, slamming into a cluster of mirrors Sasuke's Sharingan eyes had tracked the real Haku to. The ice splintered and cracked under the assault, and as the flames died down the Senbon barrage stopped. But not for long, as Naruto's yelp indicated that Haku had escaped again. Sasuke cursed and tried to block more needles, but even with the Sharingan he couldn't stop them all. Ow! Damn it! Sasuke turned around and saw the real Haku among the mirrors facing Naruto, who had already been struck several times. The Sharingan gave Sasuke less of a view of Naruto's chakra pathways so much as his overall chakra signature, and right now, Sasuke could tell Naruto was significantly weakened. All that training last night, plus the moves he's had to pull off now. Sasuke caught the blurs of several Senbon headed for Naruto and moved. He raised his Jakudo to block the projectiles, but the Sharingan showed all too clearly he was late. Sasuke gagged as he felt needles hit his neck and stumbled, blade falling out of his suddenly numb hands. The Uchiha lost his balance as his vision darkened, and could barely feel himself fall into Naruto's arms. The blonde's face looked down worriedly at him. Sasuke. Sasuke, damn it, idiot. Don't scream, in my face, Sasuke choked out, taking a shuddering breath. A part of his brain noted that these sensations. His darkening vision. Come on Sasuke, what's wrong? You're not going to let a couple of needles take you out, huh? Come on. Sasuke felt himself be shaken, and managed a wry smile. You know. I hated you. The shaking stopped, and Sasuke made out Naruto gaping at him in disbelief. You. Why did you? Sasuke coughed, and felt blood drip out of his mouth. Odd, he kind of thought he should be angry as he felt his heart slow down. Instead he felt this unusual tranquility come over him. Itachi's face flashed in his mind, and a sad chuckle left his lips. Because. That man, I swore I wouldn't die until I killed him, my older brother. Thought the oath would save me, Sasuke choked out. Naruto's grip tightened and Sasuke had to fight the growing numbness to gasp out. But you Naruto, don't you dare die. You've still got a dream. Sasuke. Darkness. Haku stared down at the blonde boy, clutching the Uchiha to him, head bowed in sorrow. She prepared another Senbon barrage. But paused. Again, she felt her heart go out to Naruto, and decided to speak from it. He found the strength that he didn't realize he had. Why? Because of a certain person who was precious to him. To save that person, he rushed in, knowing it was a trap. He was a true ninja, worthy of honor, she spoke softly, mournfully. Naruto let go of Sasuke's body, and it slumped to the cold floor of the bridge. He began to shake. Haku spoke again. Is this the first time you have seen a comrade die? I'm sorry, but this is part of the shinobi way. I have killed my kind heart to kill your friend. And if you do not withdraw, I will kill you as well. Shut up, you. You bastard. You killed Sasuke. Naruto snarled, and as he did, Haku's chakra senses began to scream something was not right. The keyblade began to glow bright red, as though a flame were consuming it from the blonde's fist gripping its hilt up. As the flames spread, the keyblade changed shape, the single blade enlarging, widening into a cruel, curved blade. From the hilt sprouted 8 smaller, but no less deadly curled blades, 2 wrapping around Naruto's hand to form a new hilt. From the pommel of the new keyblade hung a single chain with a spiraled emblem, which shook as Naruto's aura flared with deadly, red chakra and a horrifying killer intent filled the air. Haku shuddered and held up an arm to shield her face from the backlash, an almost paralyzing fear filling her heart. This chakra. It's so dark. I can barely breathe. Naruto stood up straight, face becoming visible once more. Haku was shocked to see his formerly blue irises burning blood red, the whisker marks on his face deeply defined, and his canines extended and sharpened in his bared, gritted teeth. His wounds. They're completely healed. What is this, boy? I'll tear you apart. Naruto roared, leaping right for her mirror. Haku leapt to another, barely escaping being sliced in half. Naruto kicked off the remains of that mirror, shattering it, as he continued to follow Haku, smashing and destroying every one with his keyblade. His chakra continues to grow. I must strike now. Haku thought desperately. Kakashi paused only for a moment at the familiar chakra spike, an equally familiar killing intent, of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. It was just long enough for Zabuza to nick his arm, and Kakashi cursed at the pain. He leapt away, putting some distance between the two combatants. Zabuza laughed mockingly as the mist obscured him once more. He moved to try another flanking strike on the Konoha Jounin. What's the matter, copycat? Worn out already, damn it. If the seal is breaking. No, it's only a glimmer of the Kyuubi's power. Even so, I need to end this now, Kakashi thought. Good a time as any. Zabuza, I don't mean to spoil your fun. I know how you like to stretch these things out, but how about we put an end to this now? Come on, what do you say? We're both busy people, Kakashi spoke, with a nonchalance he did not feel. Tempting. I'm curious to see how you intend to back up such brave words. Show me, Kakashi. Zabuza spoke. Kakashi produced a scroll from his pouch, gathering some blood from the wound on his arm and sliding it down on the paper as he unfurled it. Gladly. Kuchios no Jutsu. Zabuza felt and heard a rumble that grew stronger. Looking about, the missing nin could see no enemy. Until he felt and heard a gigantic mass explode from the ground behind him. He tried to turn and see what it was, but a massive weight, transferred by two giant paws and an animalistic snarl stopped him. He grimaced as he felt two more eruptions from the ground, and sharp teeth grab his ankles. What the dash? Dogs? Zabuza snarled as he looked down. Kakashi smirked under his mask. I'm sorry, did you think you were winning? I realized that if I couldn't see you, I'd have to smell you out. That was a summoning jutsu. I was calling forth my ninja hounds. They can track a scent anywhere. When you attacked me, I let you get past my guard. I wanted you to cut me. You see, it's the scent of my blood on your blade that led them to you. Surprised? Looks like I'm not the only one who was blind. Falling into my trap. You disappoint me, Zabuza. Zabuza tried to struggle free, but the large hound on his back gripped his arms more tightly, as did the ones biting into his legs. Zabuza ignored the pain and death glared the leaf ninja. You bastard! Ah, the mist is finally clearing. And do you know what I see? Your death. Kakashi stated. Zabuza snorted. Talk. Do you mean to talk me to death? In a way, yes. Right now my hounds are just playing with you, but one word from me and they'll tear you apart. Kakashi quickly began making hand seals. Alright, Zabuza, time to finish this, but it won't be with Sharingan, imitations of some other ninja's tricks. No, it's time I introduced you to my one and only original jutsu. Haku emerged from one of her mirrors, trying to hit Naruto from behind, but the enraged ninja spun around and slashed her Senbon to pieces. Haku leapt away, forming more Senbon and flinging them, but to no avail. Naruto blocked each and every one. Trying to buy more time to think up a counterattack, Haku leapt back into her mirrors and reformed them, noting grimly that she was almost at her limit. You'll pay for this, I'm gonna kill you. Naruto screamed. He spun up the Keyblade as he had before, the red chakra infusing it with so much chakra it seemed on fire. When it was only a blur, Naruto flung it with bestial strength, the weapon blasting right through one of her mirrors and shattering it completely. Before it flashed out of existence and reappeared before another mirror, smashing through it as well before teleporting again and again. So quickly Haku barely had time to blink, all but one mirror had been shattered into oblivion, and her vision was suddenly filled with the chakra-blazing fist of the blonde. Smash! Haku was thrown out of her mirror, her head snapping back painfully from the force of the punch. She spun in the air, the blow turning her back to Naruto, and she screamed as she felt a white-hot sword blow across her back. She crashed to the pavement of the bridge, shaking in agony, and felt herself being kicked in the ribs. She rolled with the blow, barely avoiding her ribs being shattered, but she was still virtually paralyzed from the waist down. She looked up fearfully as Naruto lifted up his blood-red Keyblade, eyes narrowed in rage. The red chakra seemed to wink out, and the red flew from Haku's vision. Naruto's red, angry eyes became wide, blue ones. His snarl a gaping mouth. Most telling of all, the Keyblade reverted back to its original, almost comical state. Ha! Haku! He whispered, shocked. Haku struggled to get up, but found herself stopped by the pain of her injuries. She took a deep breath. I have failed you, Zabuza-sama. I am like a weapon that has been broken and is of no further use. Naruto. Kill me. The blonde gaped in disbelief. Haku coughed. Why'd you stop? I murdered your best friend, can't you kill me? Naruto just continued to stare. Haku narrowed her eyes. Why do you hesitate? To show mercy to those who oppose the one you serve. I just. Naruto stuttered. Haku's glare grew, and Naruto wondered how she could be so intimidating, lying on the ground, helpless before him. To allow his enemies to live, when you could strike them down. This is not compassion, it is a betrayal of your life's very purpose. For what reason do you exist then? You're of use to no one. Your life has no meaning. It is mere existence. Day after day, the pain and struggle, signifying nothing. Naruto growled. Speak for yourself, you bitch. Haku laughed weakly, sadly. Are you really that blind little one? I am speaking of myself. This day has shown that I am no longer of any use to Zabuza. Zabuza? Why that guy anyway? To devote your life to some son of a bitch who doesn't know the meaning of the word honor. If he's the one person that really matters to you, man, that's the sorriest thing I've ever heard. Naruto shouted. Haku sighed. There were others that mattered to me. My father, and my mother, she said quietly. Naruto blinked, breath hitched in his throat. Her eyes. They're so full of pain, just like mine. Hayatan. That's what they called my bloodline. The Senbon, my mirrors. All of my bloodline. A very powerful one. So powerful, the people of my village feared anyone wielding it. My parents died because of my bloodline, my mother because she had hid our bloodline from my father, and my father because he killed my mother and tried to kill me. After that. Haku breathed shakily, wincing at the pain that resulted. After that. In all the world, there was no one who needed me. I was unnecessary, she spoke, biting her lip. Naruto was silent. Haku then smiled, sadly. Then Zabuza found me. He gave me a purpose. To be his tool, his ultimate weapon. For this. For giving my life meaning, I owe him everything. Haku paused and looked at Naruto, who was staring at her incredulously. That's the most ridiculous story I've ever heard. I mean, he treats you like a slave. You're a human being, not a weapon or a tool. How can you care about someone like that? For that very reason, Haku replied calmly. Do you find it so strange? Well, yeah, when he found me, I had no one. He gave my life meaning, purpose. But now, my usefulness is over. The only thing that gave my life meaning, it's gone. I am a broken tool, a blunted weapon, of no use to anyone. Go on, Naruto. Do it, for both of our sakes. Do it, quickly. Naruto took a deep breath, and kneeled down next to her. Haku stared at him. I know what it feels like, Naruto said, quietly. To be unnecessary. A monster. They called you that, didn't they? Same with me. Because of that chakra? Haku asked. Naruto nodded grimly. And I also have people precious to me. Who gave my life meaning? He sucked in another deep breath. Just because you failed Zabuza though. It doesn't mean you have no purpose. Maybe you just need to find another one. Another person to give you one. Haku laughed bitterly. Naruto. Your heart is too bright for its own good. So is yours, Naruto retorted. Haku blinked at him questioningly, and Naruto blushed. The Keyblade. I don't know how, but it's telling me that Sasuke's not dead. Naruto smiled sadly. You couldn't kill your heart either, huh? Haku smiled back, the shared burden lifting the atmosphere if only by a little. No. I suppose not. The Keyblade flashed out of existence, and Naruto was about to lift Haku up. Naruto. Naruto jerked at Sakura shouting his name, and he looked up. Behind him, Naruto saw Sakura holding Sasuke, tears flowing from her eyes, as Tazuna stood awkwardly nearby, guilt all over his aged face. I'm sorry, the old man began. Naruto coughed. It's okay, he's alive and dash. The blonde trailed off as the mist cleared, revealing the rest of the bridge. On the bank nearby, two figures stood, confronting each other. Zabuza, being restrained by several large dogs, and Kakashi staring him down, lightning crackling from his right hand. But on the bridge itself stood several men, all led by a small, squat fellow with sunglasses. Haku's breath hitched, and Naruto looked questioningly at her. "It's Gato," she whispered. Naruto shuddered as he felt something wrong, dark, with the sneering man, all the way from here. The keyblade appeared back in his hand as he watched and listened. Gato spoke to Zabuza about how he was hoping he'd find him dead, stating that the demon of the mist had become a liability. He then said that he'd brought these men with him to take down Zabuza and Tazuna, and get the keyblade, for a much lower price. Gato at last leered at Naruto and Haku on their section of the bridge, and spoke the final straw. "I was hoping to find your tool alive, Zabuza. She and I will have some fun before I off her for good," he chuckled. Naruto snarled, but before he could act, "Kakashi! I say we call a truce," Zabuza shouted. The copy ninja nodded, the electricity fading from his hand, and with a whistle the ninja hounds backed off. Zabuza stood shakily, his arms limp at his sides. "Sorry, my dogs paralyzed your arms," Kakashi stated apologetically. Zabuza shook his head. "Never mind that, just give me a damned weapon." Kakashi tossed him a kunai, which Zabuza caught by biting through his face wrappings and catching it in his teeth. With that, Zabuza rushed the mob, slashing his way through. "Zabuza-sama!" Haku cried out as he vanished into the crowd, but even from here Naruto could tell the missing Nin was not faring well. The henchmen turned and converged on him, ignoring their fallen comrades, and vanished into the mist. For a few moments, there was only the sound of weapons clashing and men screaming. Then, a lot more screaming. Gato's men began running out of the fog bank, panicking as they leapt into the river, clambered up the bridge supports, or rushed to the bank. The reason soon became apparent, as a massive black blob emerged from the mist, yellow eyes narrowed over a sickeningly familiar smile. "You didn't think it'd be that easy, did you? You pitiful insects!" roared the massive Heartless in a distorted version of Gato's voice. Long, grasping claws emerged from the mass, pulling it along as it crushed or ripped apart numerous henchmen. A long, blue tongue snapped out of the thing's mouth like a frog's, snagging more men and bringing them screaming into Gato's mouth. Naruto ran ahead, ignoring Sakura's shouts, and stood at his sensei's side. Kakashi glanced at him with a frown under his mask. "Naruto, go back. I'll handle this." "Kakashi-sensei, trust me when I say I know what I'm doing," Naruto said grimly. Kakashi sighed. "Fine. Use Kage Bunshin to draw his attention. I'll take him out." Naruto nodded, and formed a hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Amazing, Kakashi thought, seeing the dozen Narutos standing at the ready, keyblades held in a ready position. He can still make that many even now. Charge! The lead Naruto shouted, and they did, rushing Gato. The monster grinned and whipped out his tongue, catching a Naruto and drawing it into its mouth. The rest of the Narutos continued attacking, so Kakashi assumed it was only a clone. He made hand seals again, his palm filled with lightning once more. With the Sharingan at the ready, Kakashi charged the monster, Naruto's clones keeping Gato's claws occupied. "Raikiri!" Kakashi roared, slamming the lightning blade through the Gato monster's head. The monster screamed and reared back, beginning to shake as smoke poured from the gaping hole in its forehead. Kakashi prepared a fire jutsu, but found he didn't have to. A familiar silver key slashed through the top of the monster, followed by an equally familiar orange-clad ninja. "Take this!" Naruto shouted, leaping up and plunging the length of the keyblade through the monster's body. He dragged it down Gato's face and leapt away, as Gato shook and wobbled like a giant, black gelatin mold. A massive, glowing heart-shaped object burst from Gato and rose into the misty air, vanishing, as the rest of the beast dissolved into shadow, leaving the corpse of the mafia boss lying in a sad heap before them. For a moment, the two shinobi simply stared at the empty bridge. "You let yourself get eaten?" Kakashi asked, incredulously. Naruto shrugged and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. "It worked, didn't it?" The sounds of cheering reached them, and Naruto and Kakashi turned to see a mob of villagers, applauding them wildly. Naruto grinned and laughed happily, thrusting his keyblade into the air in victory, while Kakashi merely smiled. In all the noise, it was understandable that no one noticed that Haku had vanished from the bridge. Unable to find a trace, Kakashi suggested they let her go. Sasuke still had to recover, the bridge wasn't finished yet and Zabuza deserved a proper burial at least. Naruto agreed, though he couldn't help staring at the place Haku had laid, keyblade in hand. Some distance away, leaping through the trees, a trio of ninja was moving as quickly as they could away from the bridge battle. All three wore forehead protectors marked with a single musical note, but there the similarities mostly ended. One resembled nothing so much as a mummy wearing a long, fur coat, his head heavily bandaged to the point only one eye was revealed. His hunched back completed the illusion of some kind of deformed beast, long sleeves waving from his arms. The second male wore gray camouflaged pants and a black t-shirt, with a purple scarf around his neck. His eyes were beady and his hair messy and brown, and his face seemed locked in a permanent smirk. The third, and only female, aside from their prisoner, wore camouflage pants and a green, sleeveless top, a gray scarf wrapped around her neck. Her long, luxurious black hair was tied with a simple bow, and waved behind her like the tail of a dolphin. Her face might have been called pretty, if not for the irritated scowl on it. Ugh! Why do we have to carry her anyway? The kunoichi complained, Haku slung over her shoulder like a bag of vegetables. The mummy rolled his one visible eye at his comrade's complaints, while the brown-haired ninja just smirked as the girl grunted. You lost. You carry, the spiky-haired boy retorted. The girl with long black hair scowled. You cheated. How do you cheat at Jan Kenpa? The mummy asked, amused. You cheated. You had to. The girl hissed. The spiky-haired boy held up a hand, and the trio paused in the trees. We're here, he stated, eyes locked onto the form of a black crow. The bird cawed, yellow eyes boring into the three ninja with a surprising intensity. The girl looked away, wincing in secret. A door in the air opened, dark energies swirling and coalescing around it. With a grunt, the kunoichi leaped forward, sliding the unconscious Haku into her arms. As gently as she could, the kunoichi set Haku into the portal, before pushing her in. The door closed, vanishing as though it had never existed. The crow was gone too. Come on, let's go. Job's done, the spiky-haired boy stated. The mummified boy was already about to head out. The kunoichi stood on her tree branch, as though frozen. Kin! Move it! The spiky-haired boy barked. The girl shook her head and scowled at the boy. I'm coming, I'm coming. She growled, taking off after her teammates. Unnoticed, a black figure stood in the trees, the crow sitting on her shoulder. Well. He kept his end of the bargain, the figure noted. She laughed quietly, looking towards the bridge. Her keen senses could hear and feel the jubilation of the people, celebratory cheers in the air. Savor your victory for today, Maleficent smiled. Savor it. And continue. A burst of green fire later, and she was gone. 2 weeks later, Kakashi sighed, rubbing the back of his head. Sasuke and Sakura stood near him, at the bank before the first leg of the now completed bridge. A number of townspeople, Tazuna and his family included, were gathered to say goodbye to Team 7. However, they were missing someone. Damn it, where is that idiot? Sasuke muttered angrily. Sakura looked at Kakashi curiously, and the Jounin shrugged. I have an idea. Can't you go get him then? Sakura asked. He probably needs to be alone for a while. Kakashi thought it over. But, couldn't hurt to get him. I'll be right back. Kakashi left and easily tracked down Naruto to a cliff overlooking the sea. The blonde boy stood in silence, staring at the huge sword planted at the head of Zabuza's grave. Naruto? Naruto didn't acknowledge him, he just continued to stare at the sword. Silently, Kakashi walked over and stood next to him. The boy took a deep breath, seemingly sorting out his thoughts. She said she was a tool for Zabuza. His weapon. Kakashi nodded and sighed. It's part of the ninja way. We are to be tools, weapons, for whoever commands us. We don't ask questions, we merely do what we must. Naruto frowned and looked up at his teacher. Do you believe that? Kakashi gave an amused huff and shook his head. No. I don't. Even shinobi, after all, are human. Naruto turned back to the sword and smiled. Well then. That settles it. From now on, I'll find my own way of the ninja. A way that's true to myself and to my heart. The keyblade flashed into existence in his hand, and he held it up to shine in the morning sun with a grin. To live without regrets, and to never back down from a promise. That'll be my ninja way. Kakashi smiled, shaking his head at his most surprising student, before they both turned and walked to the bridge. Naruto looked back at the rising sun as Kakashi lead him away. Am I really as strong as you say? Aqua, Haku. Haku. Dearie, wake up. Haku blearily opened her eyes, a stone roof coming into focus. Scattered memories and images darted in her mind, and as though directed from the outside, they came into alignment. She felt a smooth shale table under her back, supporting her in the middle of the cavern. It was her room, given to her by. She looked to her side and saw a familiar, smirking, light purplish face. It was female, with chubby cheeks and artful makeup, underneath a mop of pure white hair that floated in the water. Yes, Mistress Ursula. Haku replied, running a hand through her loose black hair. Out of habit she looked down, checking her body. Only the usual scars across her pale skin and deep blue tail. She flicked her flippers just to make sure. I was worried. You really shouldn't practice so hard. The sea witch said smoothly, running a perfectly manicured claw down her cheek. Haku smiled self-deprecatingly, and ascended with a kick of her fins. I'm sorry, mistress. Is there anything I can do? Everything fell into place for Haku, nothing out of turn. She was pleased she had not fallen too far behind on her training, being Ursula's apprentice was very demanding and... A blonde boy with blue eyes peered down at her, a soft, sad smile on his face. Haku blinked. Haku, dear? Are you sure you're all right? Ursula asked, oozing sympathy. Haku shook her head and smiled. Yes, mistress. Please excuse me. The mermaid swam off, leaving a smirking Ursula behind. The sea witch rubbed her hands together. It worked, even better than I imagined. I must hand it to Maleficent. And that Orochimaru fellow. Everything, according to plan, the sea witch cackled quietly. That's it for part 2. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.